Hello, welcome to the Rory Rogers News Channel. Thank you so much for watching. Alright, today we're going to dive into episode 3, where we dive into Skarmory. And I would like to thank Alex Gore for proofreading the Skarmory script, and I would also like to thank Rody Walk for co-hosting with me with the Conkeldor competitive analysis. So feel free to check that out if you would like Rody's commentary with Conkeldor. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Skarmory script right now. Alright. Let's go pop up our big computer right now. So Skarmory's tier is OU. Its typing is Steel Flying, which is a pretty good typing unless you're facing up against a Magnezone. And you may know that Magnezone is an imminent threat, especially if you're using a Skarmory. Magnezone is the biggest threat to your entire team. We'll get to the way to handle Magnezone a little later. Let's go and read the rest of the specifications. So Skarmory has a lot of resistances, which is the benefit of its Steel and Flying type. So its resistances are Normal, Flying, Bug, Steel, Grass, Psychic, Ghost, Dark, and Dragon. And it only has 2 weaknesses, Fire and Electric. And it even has 2 immunities, Poison and Ground. Now, I have to put a programming note here about the immunities. Unless you are holding a ring target, and if that's the case, then Poison and Ground attacks will make contact. Also, if Skarmory is holding an Iron Ball, then the ground typing moves can make contact and will become a weakness. Lastly, if the move Gravity or Smackdown is used against Skarmory, then ground type attacks will make contact. You should avoid these scenarios due to the ground typing turning from an immunity to a weakness. So, I wanted to put that brief programming note there, just in case anybody tries that on you. I hope this assists you with your Skarmory build. Alright, and let's go and dive into our base stats, shall we? Skarmory is really good as a defensive tank, so its HP is 65, its attack is 80, and its defense is 140. Its special attack is 40, its special defense is 70, and its speed is 70. So there are 3 abilities that Skarmory could have, although the 3rd ability is a hidden ability which cannot be accessed yet as of the time of this taping, but I do want to mention it for the future so that way this video can age well. Alright. So, Skarmory can either have Keen Eye, which prevents loss in accuracy, or, and this is the preferred ability for all the Skarmory builds, Sturdy, which means it cannot be knocked out with 1 hit. And the hidden ability is Weak Armor, which means that physical attacks lower defense, but raises its speed. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into the common variants for Skarmory, and then we can dive into the least common variant. Although this video is going to be rather short because there are only 3 variants of Skarmory, and Alex Gore, when he proofread the script, he actually knocked off one of the variants that I had for Skarmory. So there are 2 common variants that you see on your screen here. The common hazard setter. Alex Gore emphasized this point a lot when he was proofreading the script. He said that all Skarm builds have to be 5x31. I was a little hesitant to go along with that because I know that some viewers watching may not have the funding to breed a 5x31, but Alex Gore did emphasize to me that Skarm does need to be 5x31. So let's go ahead and go into the specifications right now. So the IVs are HP 31, attack 31, defense is 31, special attack doesn't really matter, special defense is 31, and speed is 31. Its EVs are 224 HP, 252 defense, and 32 special defense. Its nature is impish, so plus defense minus special attack, and its moves are, and Alex Gore emphasizes a lot, that Skarmory requires these 3 moves. You need Roost, you need Stealth Rock or Spikes, and Brave Bird, for the exception of the Cost Up Berry Lead, which I can get to after this variant. So he emphasized that these 3 moves are the most important moves that Skarmory can ever have. Roost, Stealth Rock or Spikes, and Brave Bird. And then as for the 4th slot, that's where you can be a little creative. The item that Skarmory can hold could be either Leftovers, Shed Shell, or Rocky Helmet. Now, if you recall earlier in the program, I mentioned that Magnezone is pretty much the bane of Skarmory's existence. If you have Magnezone concerns, here's a solution for you. Shed Shell. Shed Shell will ensure that you have a safe switch. It doesn't just work for Skarmory, it can work for Caesar, and it can work for Ferrothorn. I just wanted to present that item to you, so that way you know that there is an option to avoid Magnezone's magnet pull ability. If you don't really care about Magnezone knocking out Skarm, there are two more items you can adorn on Skarm. You can either adorn the Rocky Helmet, which will essentially force your opponent to take chip damage. This is especially good if you're facing up against something like a Conkeldurr, which you want to kind of stack up the burn damage, and at the same time, you can kind of chip it with that Rocky Helmet. Not to mention the fact that you can just finish off Conk with a Brave Bird. What a way to go into the third competitive analysis video, covering a possible check for Conk. Conk has a pretty rough life, doesn't it? I can tell you this, the fourth competitive analysis video is not going to be a Conk check, but it can handle Conk, but in its own creative way. But stay tuned for the competitive analysis episode 4 to find out what Pokemon that is. You can also handle not just Conkeldurr, you can handle several other Pokemon. Let's just say a Breloom, for example, or something along those lines. Although Breloom is a little bit nervous about Skarmory's flying type. Yeah, and there are some Skarm variants that get the jump on the Breloom and do invest a little bit in speed, specifically to outspeed Breloom, so that way Skarm can just do a Brave Bird and be able to knock out Breloom, because Breloom has a 4x weakness towards the flying type. But let's just say that you don't really care about the chip damage that you can do to physical attacking Pokemon. You can also do Leftovers. Leftovers is pretty good in passive recovery. So those are the three items, and Leftovers is good for your gradual recovery, just in case you want to passively recover while you're in the fight, and while your opponent's trying to figure out how to knock you out, hey, at least you can recover each turn your opponent is thinking. Alright, and its ability is Sturdy, which means that Skarm will not be one-hit KO'd. This is good especially for Pokemon like Infernape that would just come in and do Overheat. You can survive with your Sturdy, and then you can punch back with your Brave Bird, and you can knock out Infernape. So that Sturdy ability is good with Skarm. So Skarm really does benefit from its Sturdy ability, but we can get to how you can maximize that benefit in the Cost Up Berry lead, but for now I need to explain what all the moves do. So let's go ahead and explain the moves, shall we? You have Roost. Now Roost recovers your Pokemon when you use it, and Roost is good if you're in a stall fight. I should mention that Alex Gore, when he was proofreading the script, he told me that Skarm is not the best momentum pick. He says that he envisions Skarmory more in a stall team rather than a momentum team. I think you all should know where Alex Gore is coming from here. So Roost recovers the Skarm just in case you're in a stall fight. Let's just say that you have Toxic on your Skarm, and you want to chip damage things like Blissey or Mandibuzz or something along those lines, then you can be able to Toxic Stall Blissey or Mandibuzz, implying that Blissey is the only slot left, or implying that Mandibuzz and Skarm are in a stall fight. So Roost is good to maintain your stall position, and Roost is also good just in case you take a pretty heavy blow from a Pokemon. Then you have Stealth Rocks or Spikes. Now, each of these moves have a benefit. So Stealth Rock, the benefit to Stealth Rocks is that you can be able to chip any Pokemon that enters into the field. That is the benefit. And you essentially negate all Sturdy ability Pokemon, so if your opponent has a Skarm as well, you just made it void, because now you can use your Infernape to overheat it, and it will knock out without any problems, because you don't need to worry about Revenge Brave Bird that's going to impact you in the match. So Stealth Rock is good for destroying the Sturdy ability. Or you could run Spikes, which you can have 3 layers, and you can get even more chip damage. The only main drawback to Spikes is that Flying-type Pokemon or Levitating Pokemon cannot be impacted by Spikes, but the benefit is that you do get more chip damage. And then you have Brave Bird, so that way you're not a sitting duck. Well, in this case, you're not a sitting steel bird, while the Pokemon there is roost stalling. While you have a fighting-type Pokemon looking at you, you can at least have an answer to that fighting-type Pokemon. So Brave Bird is really good for that. And it's also good general. Skarm is also, it's not just good for chip damage to fighting types, it's also good in terms of doing chip damage to things like Gengar or things like Volcarona. You can be able to survive a Quiver Dancing Volcarona and do Brave Bird on the way out. So that's the benefit of Brave Bird, so that way you're not a sitting bird on certain things you can address. Alright, now for the 4th move, you can be a little bit more creative on it. And there's a reason why I have Spikes listed twice. That is because some people like to pair Stealth Rocks with Spikes, so you can get double hazards. Although, I should note that that's a little bit of a risky play. If you were to do that, that's great, but the problem is that there are so many Pokemon out there. There are Skarm running around, Mandibuzz, Rotom Wash, that have Defog. You're just sitting there setting up Spikes and Stealth Rocks for nothing. So I think it's good to just have one hazard move, so that way you're not wasting a move slot. But some people would disagree, so that's why I have Spikes there. Alright, but I would opt for these other 4 moves. But yeah, but the other 4 moves I would suggest over Spikes. Alright, so each of these 4 moves do something pretty special. So Whirlwind, so after you get done with Stealth Rocks, you can essentially Whirlwind away threats. Let's just say you have your Stealth Rocks and you have a Pokemon that can't really do much against you. Then you just Whirlwind it away. And the benefit of this is that if, let's just say you're dealing with something with Bulk Up, or Calm Mind, or Sword Stance, you can be able to negate those entirely by just blowing them right out of the battlefield. That's the benefit to Whirlwind, is that you essentially get them out of the battlefield ASAP. I think Whirlwind is a good benefit to have, but it's not the only move you can have though. If you're not the type to be phasing out Pokemon with your Skarm, then you can also defog other hazards. Let's just say you lack a Pokemon to defog hazards away. Well, Skarm is a pretty good answer for that. Gliscor would be too, but see, Gliscor is susceptible to Toxic, because as of the time of this taping, Poison Heal is not implemented yet as a hidden ability for Gliscor, so Gliscor can be stalled out and then your defogger is long gone. Skarm, however, can't be poisoned, so you can be able to have your Skarm out there and it can defog stuff. I think that Skarm is a pretty good defogger, just watch out for Magnezone. Alright, and then there's another move here. Let's just say you have a defogger in your team that you're pretty satisfied with, but you opt for Taunt. And the benefit to Taunt is that you can essentially force Blissey to blank. Blissey can't teleport, Blissey can't Wish Heal, it cannot Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. It can't do anything in terms of its actual moves. All it can do is just Seismic Toss or Flamethrower or Thunderbolt. But Taunt essentially shuts down Skarm's stall fights. So that's the benefit to Taunt, is that you essentially shut down those Pokemon. Also, it forces Mandibuzz to blank, because what's Mandibuzz going to do? Is Mandibuzz going to Brave Bird you? Yeah, but Skarm is part Steel, and it also has a Rocky Helmet, so Mandibuzz is going to get chip damage. So you force Mandibuzz into an unfavorable position, and you can be able to chip Mandibuzz out. If you have a Mandibuzz issue in your team, then I think that Skarm would be an excellent answer, implying that your Skarm has Taunt. Or, if Taunt is not your thing, you can run Toxic. And boy, is this one nasty. Ooh. Skarm using Toxic on a Pokemon, and the Pokemon can't use Toxic back. Oh boy. Especially with the matches that matter. Toxic Skarm is one of the most dangerous things to approach your fight. Let's just say you're fighting against a Milotic, and ooh, This is nasty. If you catch Milotic before the Flame Orb activates, and Skarm uses Toxic, that poison chip damage, that is nasty. Oh boy, woo! Milotic is going to hate you. Alright, so Skarm can pretty much make a lot of Pokemon blank. So those are all the moves, and I just wanted to explain them here. And now, let's go ahead and explain the Costa lead, which is the second most common Skarm variant. It's a little bit more tricky to use, but I think it's having that Skarm variant is pretty useful. So let's go ahead and dive into the Costa lead, shall we? So why is it called the Costa lead? Well, the reason why Costa Berry is so important to this particular Skarm build is because this Skarm is an offensive Skarm. And the Costa Berry, what it does is that if Skarm reaches very low health, Costa Berry will kick in. And what will Costa do exactly? The Costa Berry will make your Pokemon go first. Now, if there are two opponents with Costa Berry, then the one that's faster will kick on first, and then the other one will kick on after that. But speed tie is a little bit more of an intense issue that I don't want to dive into right now. But most of the time, there's going to be no Pokemon with Costa Berry leads fighting against each other. Usually, it's just one Pokemon with a Costa Berry, and the other Pokemon without one. So, there we go. But just in case you do encounter that, now you know what happens. Alright, let's go and dive into the IVs right now. HP is 31, attack is 31, defense is 31, special attack doesn't really matter, special defense is 31, and speed is 31. And its EVs are 6 HP, 252 attack, 252 speed, and its nature is Jolly, plus speed minus special attack. Alright, and its moves are Stealth Rock, Spikes, Brave Bird, and Taunt. Alright, and I should note that you will get 2 guaranteed turns with this Skarm. 2. Not 1 guaranteed turn, 2. Implying that your opponent doesn't also have the Costa Berry and that you get your opponent at Costa Berry range. But again, that's for a whole another topic. We're going to talk about the most common scenario, which is you have the Costa Berry and your opponent doesn't have the Costa Berry. Alright, so what can you do when you're at that range? So, you can use Stealth Rock on your first turn, and then on the second turn you can use Brave Bird. This is especially good against Infernape. Did I say good? I meant to say fatal. It is fatal against Infernape. So, Infernape cannot handle the pressure, unless Infernape has Mach Punch. Now Conk can handle it because most Conk variants have Mach Punch, but Infernape, there are certain variants that don't have Mach Punch, which is really troubling for Infernape because Infernape is vulnerable to this particular build of Skarm. Let's just say that you don't want to deal with Infernape and its Mach Punching antics. That you just punch for the Brave Bird, and you don't let the Costa Berry activate because why do you need the Costa Berry if Infernape is just going to knock you out with Mach Punch anyways? Might as well knock out the Infernape while you still can. So, just throwing that out there. Now, there is also a chance Infernape can also carry Focus Sash too, but then at that point, Infernape is at low enough health to the point where you could just chip Infernape with another of one of your teammates, implying that another one of your teammates have a priority. Alright, so as you may know, the item is a Costa Berry and its ability is 30. Alright, so those two are the most common variants of Skarm. Now let's go and talk about the least common variant of Skarm, which is the Special Defensive Hazard Setter. So this one, the IVs are HP is 31, Attack is 31, Defense is 31, Special Attack doesn't really matter, Special Defense is 31, and Speed is 31. And its EVs are, now we're going to do the reverse of the common hazard setter. The EVs are reverse, so 224 HP is the same. The only difference is that defense is now 32 and special defense is 252 special defense. And its nature is careful, so plus special defense minus special attack, and its moves are Roost, Stealth Rock, or Spikes, Brave Bird, and then either Spikes, Whirlwind, Defog, Taunt, or Toxic. And its items are, now there's another difference here as well. the item could either be leftovers or shed shell. Notice how I did not put Rocky Helmet in this variant, but the reason why is because this is a special defensive hazard setter and not a defensive hazard setter. Meaning you do not want this Skarm in front of anything that has physical attacks, since this is a special defensive build and not a physical defensive build. And last but certainly not least, its ability is sturdy. Now you may ask, why would I want the special defensive variant? What would that be good for? And that's a very good question. Skarm has a base 140 defense stat, and it also has pretty decent special defense stat at 70. I wouldn't really say a good special defense stat, but the reason why I say that it's good is because of things like Reuniclus or Cofagrigus, whichever threat you want to handle. So Cofagrigus may Will-O-Wisp you, but you can also Toxic Cofagrigus too. And Cofagrigus can't stand when you Toxic that Coffin. Coffins don't like to be toxic. Also, green jelly stuff does not like to be taunted either. So you can pick whichever threat you want to handle and go from there. Although Roost is pretty important here, so that way you don't have to deal with their stuff too much. So Taunt, I would say, is good to handle both threats generally, but if you want a faster way to handle Cofagrigus, then Toxic could be in your 4th slot. If you're having Reuniclus problems, then I would say that Taunt would be good in your 4th slot instead of Toxic. Because Reuniclus has the ability Magic Guard, which essentially negates toxic effects. So whichever threat you want to handle, that is the move that you can have there. Defog is good for hazard removal, which I would say if you lack a hazard removal Pokemon on your team, Skarm would be a good Pokemon for that. And with that, let's go ahead and close out the computer here. And before we sign off, I would like to mention a breeding tool that you can use, which is the Egg Move tool that I featured for both the Gengar video and the Conkeldurr video. So you can search for Skarmory, although Skarmory only has one egg move on PokeMMO. So let's go ahead and sample here. So pop up Skarmory, and there we go, only one egg move in existence. Let's go ahead and search. Let's see, what Pokemon can give Skarm Pursuit? There we go. So you want your Skarmory to have Pursuit, those are the Pokemon that you would breed with Skarmory. And thankfully, due to TMs being implemented, Skarmory only has one egg move. You get TM Whirlwind in the PokeMMO TM Mart. So yeah, feel free to check that out. Oh yeah, and also, I get this question commonly. You will need 8 badges in a region in order to activate all the TMs in the TM Mart. So you need to receive all 8 badges first before that happens. Alright, so feel free to check out that Egg Move tool, maybe not necessarily for Skarm, but maybe for something else that you're breeding. So feel free to check out that particular tool, and I wish you well with your competitive endeavors. So with that, let's go ahead and close out our program here. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Roy Rogers News Channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content that you see here. And thank you so much, Alex Gore, for proofreading the competitive analysis for Skarm. And some people may have gulped by the price tag of 5x31, but you did emphasize a lot about the importance of 5x31 Skarm behind the scenes, so I made sure that the graphics had 5x31 Skarms listed in the competitive slides. Let's go ahead and close out the program. This is the Roy Rogers News Channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content that you see here. And this is the Roy Rogers News Channel signing off. Fast, accurate, and biased. Roy Rogers News.